Hi everyone, this is Manav here. Welcome to the event. Let me know first of all if you can hear me. Good afternoon. Hello, hi. Just type in anything in the chat window to let me know that you can hear me clearly. So before we get started, let's set the logistics correct. We have a huge turnout here. Already we have more than 100 people joining in, and people are still joining in fast. I expect that we'll cross 200 in another couple of minutes. And we have a very good turnout on YouTube as well. A lot of people are watching this event live on YouTube. Super excited to have each one of you. Let me know if you are also equally excited to be in this event. This is a very special kind of event, and I'll talk about why we have organized this event in a bit, because this is the first session. Firstly, let me know if you are excited about being here and if you are going to attend each event of this entire week. Let me know. Right after that, what I'll do is I'll quickly walk you through the purpose behind this event, the objective, and of course the sessions that we have here. And after that, we'll get started with the session. I hope all of you are able to see the my screen. Let me know if you are able to see my screen. This is the presentation. Yeah. So I hope my voice is clear and you are able to see the screen as well. Welcome everyone. Glad to see all of you. Thank you first of all for joining Europe Data Science Week in such large numbers. And this, I can promise you, is going to be a session that you will remember for a long time to come. The purpose behind this doing this special event and calling it Europe Data Science Week was one. We have been inviting speakers and data science leaders and AI leaders from around the world. And last month we had people from, someone from Silicon Valley, Microsoft, etc. And we have invited speakers from Facebook, Apple, you name it. We have invited, speakers from around the US, India, Africa, Europe. But this time, what we wanted to do is we wanted to do a little bit of a theme-based event wherein we are focusing on one continent and we are looking and trying to understand different aspects of what's happening in the data science world there, so that you remember everything as a thread over a long period of time. And that is why we came up with this concept of the Europe Data Science Week. That's one. Second is objective of organizing Europe Data Science Week was that till now, primarily, most of the speakers we have hosted, data science leaders we have hosted, they have been from either India or US. And when we think about data science and AI, we do not look at Europe as an opportunity. And the whole goal of this week was to expose you to what opportunities are there, and to make you more familiar with perspectives directly from Europe. And that's why the way we have organized this event is such that we have called in different data scientists from different countries. We have Divyansh, who's the first speaker today. We have Filipa, we have Marian, we have Alexei, we have Tanveer, and all of them, most of them live in different countries. Filipa is from Portugal, Marian is from Netherlands, Alexei is from Germany, Tanveer is working in London, and Divyansh is also from London. Now, the most important thing, as I said, is that we wanted to give you different flavors in this entire week. So each one of these sessions is going to have a different objective. Let's look at the session topic and the times. And if you want to take a screenshot of this, you can even take a screenshot of this so that you have this saved with you and you're not missing out on any event. So the first event right now is Data Science Trends in UK. When we talk about Europe, it's important to firstly have an overview about what's happening from a trend point of view, so that you understand better that what is happening. And we'll take UK as a market and we'll focus on that. Divyansh is going to talk about that. Second is, so far, all the speakers we had in this entire Europe Data Science Week, they would be talking about industry applications and etc. But we are privileged to have a very unique speaker who's going to cover something a little different. Filipa is going to talk about data science for social good, how data science can help us for the greater good of the society, and possibly this will inspire you to use analytics and data science in these times when the country and when the world needs help for the greater good of the society. After that, the third event is overview of data science projects in IT industry. A lot of you work in the IT industry in India, and I'm sure a lot of you work with Capgemini as well. How many people from Capgemini India here joining in the session? Can you guys give me a quick yes in the chat window? We have Marian Marcus, who works as a senior data scientist. Okay, so a couple of Prachi, Kritigya, and Deepak, a lot of people here from Capgemini India. We have Marian, who works as a senior data scientist at Capgemini Europe, based out of Netherlands. He'll talk about what data science projects look like, how do they come, how do you do need analysis of projects, and finally, how do you help the customer get results, right? Which is very, very relevant to all of you who are working in the IT industry. After that is something which is very interesting, how software engineers can transition into data science roles. How many of you are really interested in attending this session as well? I think a lot of you are looking at transitioning into data science and AI roles. Alexi, who's a lead data scientist at OLX, is going to specifically focus on the career aspect of data science. And this is the only event in this entire week which is going to focus on how to specifically for software engineers, how to transition into data science roles, mistakes to avoid, how to position, how to package yourself, etc. And then in the end, we have a very special guest from a company that whose car the world fancies, Rolls-Royce, which is a company which is much beyond cars as well, luxury cars, which is Rolls-Royce that we know. Tanveer is going to talk about how data science and AI is being used in manufacturing. And the idea of bringing manufacturing here was that although a lot of you work in IT companies, tech companies, and banks, but a lot of you or some of you are interested in manufacturing as well. Let me know if that is your area of interest, or possibly you are working it for manufacturing clients and you are working with CV, NLP, IoT data, those kind of things, and you're wondering that I have a client and the client does not know anything much about data science. How can I build data science use cases for clients, right? So that is a topic that we'll be covering next Saturday on 15th of May, which will be the final session in this entire week. Yeah, let me know if this format looks exciting. What we have tried to do is keep the sessions little different. However, in the sessions, we'll still want to know more about the speakers that we have, their journeys as well, because we would, get some of the other insights from each one of the speakers. To stay connected and to post your learning, to share your feedback about the session, just use hashtag Insaid on LinkedIn and let the speakers know. You can convey your thanks to the speakers, you can share your learnings and whatever you have learned from each session. Maybe even if you learn one thing from each one of this event, I would assume that your 1 hour was totally worth putting into attending. So you can share your learnings, you can post your feedback, and you can also thank the speakers. We'll ask them to read this. I think all of them would love for the fact that they are putting some time and effort into doing this session, and we would love to convey our thanks to each one of them, right? So that's the basic agenda and the objective of Europe Data Science Week. Let's get started with the first event, which is data science trends in UK. And for this event, we have a very special guest who's young, possibly the youngest of all of the data scientists in this entire event. And someone that I have known for a long period of time, we have Divyansh, who currently works as a data scientist at Multiply.ai. What Divyansh is going to cover is data science trends in UK. Divyansh, welcome to the event. Glad to have you as the first speaker. And why don't you switch on your video and say hi to everyone? And what we are going to do, everyone, the format of this session is going to be 3 to 4. We are going to be discussing with Divyansh. After that, 4 to 5 p.m. IST, we are going to have this discussion with Filipa. We are going to continue at the same link. You don't need to join at any other link. So Divyansh, welcome and thank you for joining us.
Hey, thank you so much, Manav. It's great to be here, seeing so many people around. And I think before we start, I would like to say that hope everyone is keeping safe and at home and using this time to learn data science.
Yeah.
Yeah, hopefully.
And Divyansh, interestingly, you got COVID multiple times. Seems like so. All of this, COVID was in UK variant or Indian variant as well.
I think it was all UK variant, but mixed with Indians, and now becoming an Indian variant. But yeah, I've had it a few times, and I'm done with it.
All right. Okay. All right. Welcome, Divyansh. Over to you. So, Divyansh, if you can introduce yourself first, set the context, what are you going to speak about, and share your deck as well, and then talk about some of the trends in UK in data science and AI space. That would be great.
Cool.
And after that, after 20, 25 minutes, what we would want to do is ask you more questions and barrage you with a lot of questions. So I will then ask some questions to you, and then we'll start taking questions from the audience as well. Yeah.
Sounds good. Sounds good. Can you guys see my screen?
Yes, Divyansh. Everybody can.
Okay, cool. Yeah, so I'm Divyansh Saxena. I work in a company or a startup called Multiply.ai. It's a finance-based app, very much like Cred or other fintech companies that are coming up in India. I've been working here since 3 years, almost 3 years now, working as a research engineer, which is basically, for a starter, means you do everything right from software engineering, sometimes data science, sometimes data analyst, sometimes business analysis, and sometimes doing front end work as well, because that's how startups work. But before this, I had a background as a pure data scientist, where I was working for a company called Trainline. It's an app widely used in Europe, where you book train tickets. If I want to travel from London to Paris via train, I'll book train ticket. If I want to even travel within UK, I'll book a train ticket from Trainline. It was a short stint. It was 1.5 years, just over 1.5 years of experience at Trainline. But yeah, it was really an experience in terms of learning a lot of stuff around data science and what industry has for you in terms of applying these data science algorithms and everything. But before that, I just completed my my bachelor's in computer science from Mumbai, and then I moved here to pursue my career in data science and tech.
Yeah. So Divyansh, you can move to the second slide, which shows everyone your journey. So everyone, one very special thing about Divyansh is that he was granted a exceptional talent visa from UK government, and at a super young age. Divyansh, everybody would be very interested in knowing more about this. We'll cover it towards the end. But how did you go about, thinking that you wanted? How did you come to know about this in the first place at such a young age, that there is something called exceptional talent visa by the UK government?
Yeah, I think that's an interesting story, because I never planned that I'll have to eventually apply for this visa and move to UK. It was just that I had my own startup back in India. We ran it for 2 years while I was studying my undergraduate degree. And then when things didn't work out over there, in terms of we couldn't raise enough money, or different reasons why that didn't work out, I wanted to still pursue entrepreneurship. but more in a data science environment. And I found this startup accelerator program called Entrepreneur First, where they just select 100 random people in a batch every year, and you come here, you meet people who are same skill set or complementary skill set, and they have the same passion to build their own companies. And yeah, you get selected into this program, and then you either come here on a tourist visa, and then raise enough money to stay longer on a different visa. It's called a startup visa that lets you stay longer in UK and run your own company, but there's a condition that you have to raise X amount of money. But obviously, if you're coming here to pursue entrepreneurship with the part of this accelerator program, you don't want to have this headache in your mind that, okay, I have to apply for a visa. Will I be able to stay in UK? Like, you want more bandwidth or runway in terms of staying in UK. And I was informed by the Startup Accelerator program itself that there is this another route to stay in UK called this exceptional talent visa. It's got limited seats, as in stamps that the government allows. They only put 200 when I applied back in 2016. And yeah, and it was a process of 2 months where you put in a lot of documents. I don't know if people know GitHub, so you have to GitHub account is basically where you put all your code that you have written prior to applying for this visa, and you send this to the government. So this is a government reviewed application process where they review everything about you in terms of how much skills you have, and the more background about this visa is that government recognizes that UK government recognizes that it needs people with certain skill sets, and there are different skill sets like cloud computing, data science, and AI, and if you fit in one of those and you have enough skills to make some impact in UK economy, they'll give you this visa. And this visa is for, like, I don't know, 5.5 years. That lets you stay for 5.5 years, and you can do anything and everything on this visa. You can start your own company, you can study, you can work in any company, which makes things very easy. And you're not thinking, okay, what do I want to do next in my life in terms of logistics? You just need to focus on your work or your ambition as opposed to the visa. So
Awesome.
that's some background on this visa.
Brilliant. We would want to ask more. We would want to know more about this a little later. But over to you. If you can just walk us through the trends in data science and then in fintech, and talk about some of the work that is happening. That would be great.
All right. I think before I even start, I think a valid question can come to your mind, that why do I care about data science in UK, right? I'm sitting in India. We have different problems here. We have different companies here. Why should we care about data science in UK? But I think the answer to that is I think the history itself. If you see, starting from the first industrial revolution, it was a British guy named Thomas Savery who basically invented a pump that later was used in steam engines to mechanize production. And you move on a little bit in future, there's a second industrial revolution, which was all about using electricity to do mass production. And again, a British guy called Michael Faraday, obviously most of you would know this. And then the third revolution, the most recent one, which was to use information and data to automate production. And again, a British guy called Tim Berners-Lee invented the internet, right? And obviously there's a pattern here, and we are on the cusp of the fourth industrial revolution, where it will be all about doing or making things automatic, but in a large scale, and because UK government recognizes that if we invest some funds, things can go really well. We can cross the boundaries, we can break the boundaries of technology. And I think as someone who's not in UK, in India, if you want to pursue data science, I think it's always good to to understand and to know what's happening at the forefront of any field, right? Like, if the field is going, if the data science is going in the right direction, obviously you don't want to go in the left direction. You would always want to go in the direction where the world is going. And I think that's why I feel I can justify why I'm speaking about it, and it should be interesting and fun to know what's going on. And And the data science world itself, as in the UK world, is worth around 16 billion, as in all the products and companies that are purely working on AI, they have this much value. There are around more than 35,000 employees who are you're working as data scientists or data engineers or data analysts or in some form of AI based roles. It could be research as well. But then, like, what do you make of this 16 billion? Right, it's a random number. The best part about that is it's been growing. This number has been growing at a massive rate of 145%, which is more than double of what it was a decade ago. And if the rate continues, I think in 2030 we are expecting that 16 billion to be 250 billion, right? And the curve you see at the back is the actual curve of how data science is growing, as in the value of data science is producing in UK is growing. And it's been applied in various fields across different fields like automotive, bioscience, education, finance. And I particularly want to talk about today is finance, because last three or 4 years I've been really closely working with this industry. And as a data person, I think I have an idea of how things are going, and it would be good to share with you guys. But why is finance so important? As in, how did finance become so big in UK, right? And it was purely because I think the UK government came up with two amazing policies, two amazing infrastructural projects that basically changed the game for UK finance and UK fintech industry. And one was basically open banking. To give a quick explanation, is that if I'm a user and if I give permission to a second person or a company that this is my bank account, you can track how I'm spending and what are the different transactions, obviously in a secure way, then you can have that data and you can do whatever you want to do, obviously within some certain boundaries, right? That's open banking for you. And then the second game changer was direct debit. Again, if as a user I give permission to a second company or a second person that you can take money out of my bank and invest or save for me in a way that I have agreed with you, then you can do that, right? And a lot of UK fintech, or I guess 99% of the UK industry is just based on these two concepts, open banking and direct debit. And this was a great move by the UK government. I think the direct debit was a couple of decades ago. I think 10, 15 years ago was when it started. And I think this year, 2021 and 2020 was when it was at its peak, right? Everyone is like 75% of the UK adults are using these fintech apps who have these open banking and direct debits as their pillars. And as you can see, there's a fintech industry in UK, which is on top of these two pillars. But then you can broadly divide the different set of companies, into three different categories. One is online banks. Like, in India, we have HSBC, PNB, ICICI. They have, I think nowadays they have their online version as well, but still they have an office where you can go, you have to do some paperwork and everything. But these banks are the online banks in UK, they are purely online, right? There's not a single concrete built around that, obviously, other than their own office where they are working and building things, but there's no infrastructure for a user to go into and do something. It's 100% online. You get your salaries paid into these accounts, you spend, you get card and everything, and it's been growing at a massive rate. I think all of them have raised more than combined £1 billion and have, I don't know, at least 2 to 3 million users each. And then the second category is, the AI finance. Okay, now I have money with me. My company has paid me. I have money in my online bank account. But these companies, the second set of companies, they let you do what you want to do with that money. right? If I want to invest, if I want to save, I can do that using these apps, right? And the first one, Clio, it was basically started off as a messenger bot where it would give you, you know, nice insights about how you spent last week using the data that you provided via open banking. And Plum is basically an app where you can invest in a lot of stocks. You can buy a stock of Apple, Facebook, Google from that app. I think there are a lot of companies in India now started doing that. So on the left hand side you had banks where you keep your money. In the middle you have apps that let you do what you want to do with that money, either save or invest. And then finally the third one is where my company, the company I work for, is venturing into, is where you have money, you know what, like you have apps where you want what, which allow you to do what you want to do, but then is there anything that you should do, right, with the money? And that's where we come. We will tell you in the app itself that put this money here, like this is how much money you should invest, this is how much you should save, as a financial advisor in your pocket, right? But then this is like overall picture of how finance or fintech industry is distributed. But I think more interesting part is how data science is being used here, right? And there are different departments where data science can be applied in finance, and obviously the first one is fraud detection, right? I think obviously there are good people who are using these apps for their own benefit to increase their wealth, to manage their finances, but there obviously there's a bad side to it where people are using these apps to for doing money laundering per se, right? And that's been like a big headache for a lot of companies pre AI world, because like things were very reactive before I don't know, this AI came into the picture. Like when I say reactive is when someone has done a fraud and then you are like, okay, this fraud happened, what should we do now? But now because of AI and because of the data we have, we can be proactive. We can be like, okay, this doesn't look good, like this person doesn't look good, let's block him from using our apps before they even use the app, right? And there are many examples, like even my company do a lot of these things because we play with a lot of money for our users. We like if we see, so it's a finance app, right? You want to put money into the app and you want it to grow for our users, or want it to be saved for some personal goals, for personal financial goals. But if let's say someone is if there's a pattern for a user who's just putting money in, taking out, putting money in, taking out, I don't know, 4 or 5 times a week, that gives you, like for consecutive 3-4 weeks, that gives you an idea that maybe they're not using the app for the reason we want them to use, right? Because then we are a financial advisor and we don't think this is the right way to use, and then we flag them, okay, it might be a case of money laundering as well. And that's where data science come into the picture, where you recognize different patterns of how a fraud looks like, and then you match behaviors of users and categorize them fraud or unfraud. I mean, you can use logistic classifiers. These nowadays, I think everything can be done by neural network, but previous to neural networks, I think people used to use logistic regression to solve this issue, where they would train lots and lots of data on whether this is fraud or not, and then a new entry would be predicted, a new user would be predicted. Okay, this user might not show tendencies of being a fraud, let him through the app, right? I think the other use case where data science come into the picture is asset management. Asset management is basically you are in the app, you are no more classified as a fraud, you are good to go, you can invest money, but then we want best for you, right? We want best interest rate, we want best growth rate for you, And that's where asset management come, that we would want to pick the best funds on stocks and shares for you to invest in based on your risk profile, right? As in, I might have $1 million in my bank account, right? But I might not be someone who is risk friendly. So I would want to invest in funds that are very safe. And there could be a person who doesn't have 1 million. He has, let's say, I don't know, $1,000. And then what they would want to do is they're like, okay, I'm young, I can take risk, give me funds that are high risk. And you want to categorize different funds into these different risk profiles, and then have your users invest money into this. And yeah, there are different algorithms that do these kind of magic behind the box. Things like random forest that will basically give you an idea of, or classify different funds into different risk profiles for you. I think people have been applying reinforcement learning, which is what you use in your self-driving cars as well. As in, you give an environment is basically how the stock market is playing today or tomorrow, or how it played yesterday. And you, as a player, which is your money, you want the best outcome, right? You want the best reward in that environment. And reinforcement learning being the most advanced algorithm that lets you play that game and get the most reward. I think if you've seen those videos from Google Brain, I think they created this Go something and an AI that basically won a game against the champion of a certain game. And it's the same. I think your money is a game that is trying to you want the best reward out of that. So reinforcement learning, I think, if you want to see how your money can grow, that's one algorithm I think you can explore more. I think purchasing habits is interesting as well. I think you can see a pattern of how I'm spending my money, and you can get people you are using this for ads, providing you ads. If they know, okay, I've spent, I don't know, last 3 months buying games or buying certain clothing from a certain brand, I might be I might be inclined towards certain things, and then you can provide me ads and increase revenue for those companies. So obviously there are again set of different data science algorithms being used for these. I'll quickly go through. I think there's a lifetime customer value, which is basically how much a customer is being valued, and you would want to market. So let's say there are two sets of people. One is basically who spend a lot on your app, and there are second who spend not much, but they are frequent. They use every day, and these are someone who use once in 6 months, but they spend a lot, right? So you would want to categorize or be able to categorize your users using data science. And when I say data science, you can use clustering based on the different behaviors they did on your platform. And these behaviors could be how frequent they're buying, how much value they are providing, as in what's the worth of the basket that they shopped, and things like that. And that clustering basically gives you an opportunity to target them in different ways, right? I don't want to show, let's say, like big brands, expensive brands, so these set of people who are not buying expensive things, right? And vice versa. I don't want to show cheaper brands to users who can afford a lot. And that's where data plays a role here. There's a risk assessment as well, which basically, again, it's categorizing your users into how risky they are and how much risk they can afford, and invest or show them funds and stocks and shares accordingly. And this is like the overall picture of where data science is being applied in fintech industry in UK, right? From risk assessment, fraud detection, asset management, lifetime customer value, and purchasing habits, right? These are mainly broad areas where data science is being applied. inside the fintech industry in UK. I'm pretty sure it's applied everywhere as well in the same direction. I think we can talk about this later in our Q&A. I think coming back to the different industries, I think finance was one. I think there is bioscience as well, which is playing a huge role currently because of the COVID scene, especially in two different areas. One is, what's the best vaccine to produce, right? And how that basically works is that, okay, you have the virus and you allow different sets of compounds to attack that virus and kill it, right? That's basically, I mean, it's a very layman way to explain how things work, but basically it's that there's a virus and you want to try millions and millions of compounds to attack that virus and see whether that works, whether it killed, and it kills consistently, right? But before AI was here, before data science was here, I mean, you can imagine how manual the process was, right? You're using a lot of guts and your gut feeling and manual work to basically choose different set of compounds and let it attack the virus and see, okay, this worked, this didn't work. And that took like 5 to 6 years to create one set of vaccine, right? But if you remember, when COVID happened last March, it took us not even a year to do this, right? And it was all because of the computation power and all because of the data we had and the data science algorithms that we had to basically find the right compound very fast that would help in fighting that virus. And that's the first half where AI is being applied in bioscience in today's world with what's happening with regards to COVID. But there's a second half that, okay, now we have vaccine with us. How do we distribute it? How much do we want to produce it? And then that's where data science play the second half, right? As in, do we want to produce so much vaccine now that we have to give to every population? Do we have the bandwidth to produce so much vaccination? Maybe not. Most of the countries don't have that. So they would find, okay, these are the people who should get vaccinated first. And these are the cities who should get vaccinated first. And you can already think of different ways how data can play a role here, right? Based on the statistics of previous pandemics or even the initial few months of the current pandemic, you get an idea. Okay, these groups are being affected first. And then using data, you can see, okay, these areas, these districts are getting attacked first and they're getting affected the most. So that's where the vaccination should come into the picture. I think other is healthcare. So healthcare is a bit different than bioscience. I think bioscience is you care more about what to make, what kind of medicines you want to make, and healthcare is after effects of producing a vaccine and or a medicine. It's more about caring about the individual users as opposed to building or producing or discovering a medicine. So there are lots and lots of startups and companies in UK. I think Microsoft recently pumped 25 million pounds and opened a research lab in Cambridge to do a lot of research around using computer vision to basically improve how we capture or know whether someone has a certain type of cancer or not, right? I think previously what would happen is someone has a cancer, they would go to a doctor, the doctor would suggest to take a scan, and then based on the size of the tumor, they would be like, okay, you are in stage 3, stage 4, stage 2, or whatever you are, right? But then or what happens today is that even before the tumor has started building, you can see or it's grown enough to be recognizable by the bare eyes. Data science and computer vision can basically get an idea or a very accurate idea that, okay, this is most likely to get converted into a tumor that would risk your life, right? And there are lots of people who are working into this, not only Microsoft. I know I know a bunch of startups in UK who are doing great. They have been funded by the government to do this on a large scale and be implemented in lots and lots of hospitals because at the end you want to save lives of people, right? And that deep learning algorithms that let you do it, they let you recognize patterns, they let you recognize things way in advance than how things were before AI. And when I say before AI, I think even five to 10 years ago, even though AI was there in 1970, but obviously we didn't have the computation power to do things that we do now. Automotive, I think first thing that comes to our mind is when AI and automation or automotive industry come together, the first thing that comes to our mind is Tesla, right? But that's based in US, and I think 25% of the automobile industry in US use AI in some sort. But right behind US is UK, and that number 25 is basically 14, and then followed by Germany and Sweden, who are coming up and trying to use more and more UI into automation in self-driving cars, basically. And I think this year is going to be very interesting and basically game-changing for UK, because I think it's predicted that end of this year is when self-driving cars would be on roads in UK for the first time ever, right? And it's all because of there are a lot of companies based out of Cambridge and Oxford these are small startups based in Oxford and Cambridge who are basically using these machine learning and deep learning algorithms to make lives easier for us humans. Yeah, I think there was I think hopefully I could give you a normal or a basic trend of how things are in UK. And yeah, feel free to catch me in any of these platforms. I'm happy to engage.
So, Divyansh, thank you for the talk. Now, what we'll do is ask you a lot of questions. Yeah. So, for the first question is that you spoke about pure online banks, which do not have any physical banks, presence. What do you think? How are they playing out from a customer mindset point of view? And do you see that adoption happening in India? Because in India, banks are taking a digital first approach. So HDFC says, we are digital. ICICI saying we are digital. So what you're talking, so these are digital first banks. And what you're talking about is digital only banks. So how do you see the adoption there of these banks vis-a-vis the established players?
I think in particularly India, I think it's the adoption gets slowed down more from a social stigma point of view, right? As in, as an individual, I don't care if my bank is online, right? But I know a lot of people who will be scared to not have a cement building for an office. Where is my money being kept, right? So it's more about that social anxiety and stigma that we have in our mind, and not that we are not capable of building such thing in India, right? So that adoption has to come from the users and the people itself, and not that the technology is not there. I think it's very simple. It's in fact easier to not have an office and build an online thing, right?
Right.
I think 5 to 6 years we might see that.
The second question is that you worked as a data scientist at Trainline. So tell us a little bit about Trainline. It's one of the biggest companies, but a lot of us here don't know about Trainline. So talk to us a little bit about this scale of the company, size of the company, and what kind of data science team was there at Trainline that you're part of.
Cool. Yeah. So I think Trainline, in terms of size, as in we were, 1,500 people, employees across 3 different countries in Europe. And I think the more impressive number there is that in UK itself, we have more data points, customer data points than Uber in UK, right? And that makes things very interesting for a data scientist, because you're joining a company. Sorry, I'm reading a question. Is Trainline like IRCTC? It's like IRCTC, but imagine if it was run by, an entrepreneur like Kunal Shah, who runs Cred, right? It's very cool. It's very slick. It makes things way easier for you. I think one of the projects we worked on. So how pricing works at Trainline is that, let's say I want to go from London to Manchester. the prices are not fixed, right? If I'm booking 3 months before, that price would be, I don't know, £10. If I'm booking a day before, that price would be £150, right? But and the train line is not someone who basically set the prices. It's just an aggregator of different train companies who already have the trains on tracks, and they want to sell tickets via this aggregator and make things easier for their users, right? And we worked on a project where the data science team worked on a project where it was predicting prices for our users beforehand and inform them, okay, you search for London to Manchester journey, the price is going to go up by 20% next week, right? And doing all sorts of things makes things very easy. I think one of the projects was predicting what will be the will you be able to find a ticket, right? If there is a huge event coming up, let's say a football final coming up, what's the probability that you will find a seat berth in that train one week before, 2 weeks before, 2 weeks before, 3 weeks before? And just to talk about the train line data science team, I think there were lots and lots of, as in when I started, it was not a big team. I think by the time I left, there were quite a few people, and most of them were, I think, or few of them were PhDs who just completed their PhD, and I don't know, some hardcore engineering, but obviously wanted to pursue data science.
Okay, so in terms of skill sets, what kind of skill sets are recruiters or employers in UK looking for in data science space, and what level of sophistication are these skill sets at, and how do you see that differing from companies to companies? You know, for example, Google in UK would look at Google kind of standards, but are there like different variations that you have observed in terms of what should be the level at different organizations?
Cool. I think because I'm coming from like an undergrad degree and not having a PhD or even a master's, I think I ended up applying in a bunch of companies, and I got an idea of, if you're applying to a startup, what's the interview process like? If you're applying for a medium company, or a big company, what the interview process like. And my takeaway was that most of them, I think most of the interview process was, first of all, obviously a phone call where they want to understand how well you communicate, because that's what a data scientist is, to be honest, communicate what the data insights are. And then there was a data science task, which was mostly around, finding insights, as in not heavy machine learning. It was just about finding insights from the data set they have. It could be a train purchasing data, train ticket purchasing data, or I applied to a company that was basically optimizing the route for the ships, right? So there's a lot of data, as in weather data, and as in the weather of different places, different oceans at the same time, and how these ships are going to navigate. And you want to do some insights analysis for these, and then finally apply a machine learning algorithm to predict something. And this was like a very standard pattern I felt was there, in irrespective of how big a company is, because they want to see how good you are in finding insights. And when I say insights, that they should be actionable insights, which a company can use to actually make some change, right? And then final was a machine learning algorithm which you apply, and they just don't care about applying, as in just use TensorFlow and write one line of code and say predict, right? They want to see a bit more depth of how the algorithm, like you end up presenting that the project of machine learning with the team that you're applying for, and you explain the algorithm, you explain why you chose this algorithm, you share your results, and you share what more you can do with this algorithm.
Sure. All right. Couple of two more questions from my side, and then I'll open it for Q&A. We have 10 minutes to go. So Shobna has a question. As a business analyst who is pursuing data science at Insaid, will I be able to land a data science job in UK without difficulty? What's your advice to land a job there? Right. So talk to us a little bit about this exceptional talent visa more. who's eligible, who's not eligible, is there any age criteria? And given the fact that you are not even from an IIT or one of the pedigree institutes in India, you still managed to get an exceptional visa. That's great news for a lot of people who are not from these top tier institutes in India, and who feel that getting these visas is next to impossible. And what I particularly liked is that you mentioned that you have to submit your GitHub profile. So does the government actually, they have officials who go through your GitHub profile?
Yeah, as in, as in there's a semi-government body that is hired by the government to do this, all of this for you, right? Obviously, I'm sure government people don't understand a single line, but yeah, they have a team who does this for you. But yeah, to give a background, not a background, like give more details on this visa. I think essentially what they care about is whether you know the skill that you are claiming to have, right? And the only way to show that is via projects. I was lucky enough to do different internships while I was in undergrad that basically give me a plethora of projects and which was basically good enough to get this visa. There's no age limit. I think another best thing about this visa is you don't need a job offer. You can just get this visa
I
based
think
on
that's actually the best part. I think this visa, what makes it really good, you don't need to even have a job, to get this visa.
exactly. As in, you can, based on your past life, as in past experiences, you apply for this visa. You can come. You can even decide not to do anything in UK for 6 years. Obviously, no one would do that, but that makes things very very easy and convenient.
Okay, great. Everyone, now you can start asking your questions. The chat is open. I'll pick a few questions because after that we have at 4 o'clock the session with Filipa. Now, the next question, Divyansh, to you is that what kind of engineering skills would you need in a data science team in a startup? Right, you're working in a startup, right? And a startup, you have to do multiple things. So when you're joining as a data scientist, what kind of engineering skills will help?
Right. I think when you're joining a startup, you can be sure of one thing, that things are not organized. As a data scientist, you are responsible for making things organized, right? That's your role first and foremost. And when I say organized, you have to, as in, prepare different ETL pipelines to make things or make data in the right format before even you can apply data science. And not even just for yourself, you want other people in the startup. There would be a marketing guy, there would be a growth guy who would want to basically use that data and do some analysis and find some insights, right? But no one is there to do that before you joined, and you are basically responsible for doing that. And in terms of engineering skills, it would be good to know things like, as in, when you say engineering, I'm assuming you mean the tech skills. I think it would be good to know what's an ETL, what are the different programming languages and frameworks to implement ETL and ETL. Yeah, I think ETL is good to know first and foremost because you want to organize things, and then comes later things like data science, which is obviously, I'm sure you can learn a lot more about it.
Great. So I think the summary is learn one or two in startups. Start with the basics, but be open to learning multiple skills over a period of time. Yeah.
Yeah.
Atanu has a question, Divyansh. Any examples from the infrastructure or real estate sector, how data science and AI is being used? And I think you can field this question really, really well because you have worked in a similar startup. Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. When I moved here to basically start my own startup, and we ran it for 1 year before running out of the funding. And that space, that startup was basically predicting. Imagine a Google map, and you point out on any property in UK, and you'll get a probability of this house or this residential property getting sold in next X months, right? And you can imagine how useful that data would be for I don't know, insurance people, for real estate agents who basically go and try to sell properties. And this was one of the ideas I worked on when I moved here. But what's happening these days is, I think there are a lot of companies who are using augmented reality for these properties, as in you don't need to view. I think the viewings of your new house that you want to buy, that happens manually. You need to enter the house and see how the house looks like. But COVID changed everything. You can view the house on an app. You can navigate yourself. As in, I'm not meaning that I'm not saying that there's a video, there's someone capturing and sending it to you on WhatsApp. Like, it's all recorded in a 3D image, and this is what happening. I think there's a new startup that came up recently. I think you go in malls and it will give you direction of where McDonald's is, right? You just put on the camera. It's like Pokemon Go, right? It will give you trace of how you can reach from A to B and all of that.
Right. So, Divyansh, one question that is coming is that the role of ML. So, you have had your own data science startup in the US, in UK. Then you have worked with the travel tech company. Now you're working in a fintech company. Out of all the machine learning algorithms that you had implemented, talk to us a little bit about what are the top 3, 4 machine learning algorithms that have helped you or that you have used time and again for things, so that we can possibly get some sense of which are the algorithms to focus on.
I think before I answer that, I think one thing a good data scientist needs to know is when not to apply these algorithms, right? Because people just jump onto applying machine learning algorithms. But obviously, once you know that, once you understand when not to apply, I think then the algorithms that I have implemented the most, and I've seen a lot of people implementing the most, is first and foremost, get your basics right with linear regression, right? And linear regression has lots of complexities and things around it. It's the simplest algorithm, but it's very complex in terms of the assumptions that are behind it. So knowing those assumptions behind linear regression or any algorithm, any data science algorithm, is the key. So first and foremost, I would say linear regression. We move on to further more complex, which is clustering. There are different clustering algorithms. K-means is the basic one. But you can start off with that. And we implemented a lot of that at Trainline as well, like for a lot of our projects. And then there's finally your neural network, right? You think linear regression is not working, you are getting okayish accuracy, you implemented clustering, you think things are not that impressive, you move on to more challenging algorithm, which is neural network, which is basically more complex linear regression, to be honest. Yeah, and I think if you know these basics right, I think there are lots and lots. I think there are 25, 26 algorithms one can know, but these 3 algorithms are good enough, and I think lots of people are learning and implementing this in UK AI space.
Two more questions I'll pick from the chat window. One is that beyond London, what are the other hubs to watch out for in AI and data science space in UK? Because London is all we think about. In rest we think about football teams, Manchester, Liverpool and all. But are there any other hubs that where interesting work or cutting edge work is happening?
I think Edinburgh, although it's in kind of UK, but Edinburgh in Scotland is doing a great job in these NLP based startups that we didn't talk about here, right? I think the research at Edinburgh in NLP is, I think, at front. It's breaking lots of boundaries, and I think that's one I think university and place to be at. I think a lot of big banks have their offices there. Like, they have one office obviously in London where they are doing trading and everything, but a lot of NLP and ML based teams are based out of Scotland. Yeah, I think that's that one place that comes to my mind. And obviously there's Germany, there's Netherlands that's coming up a lot. There's a lot of finance based apps, and yeah, that's the summary.
All right. Okay. Last question is Divyansh, and questions you would see are coming on non-stop. Everyone, if you have any questions, the hashtag is there. You can ask your questions there, as you would know that the next session is about to start. The goal is to take the most relevant question for the for people. Yeah. So Rahul has a question, which is very interesting. Divyansh's UK being a sports hub as well as for cricket and football, are there any AI applications being done there? You would see that in India also in IPL, a lot of analysis keeps on happening, right? But is anything substantial, worthwhile happening in UK in this space?
I think I don't know if how many people know this, but the Chelsea team in UK, they hired a couple of data scientists last week. So definitely there's a scope there. And I think what I can think from my imagination, from my understanding of football, I think you want to know, you can use a lot of, like, I don't know if you have seen a lot of these footballers, they have attached this device on the back of their jersey, which basically tracks how much they have uh, ran, and not only the distance, but how efficient their running was, and that's capturing lots and lots of data, right, for every player. And you can definitely think lots of applications in terms of who are the best performing players, what all improvements does this particular player need, and yeah, not only player specific, you can apply data and find, which team is hardest to beat or easiest to beat with the combination of players we have, right? I think I think football is, because it's fast, it's in data science play a more important or more prominent role. Cricket being a slow game, not yeah, I think we still need to find.
All right. So Ananya has been asking one question. I'm not sure if you're the right person to answer that, right? But still, she's been posting this question again and again. That what is the application of data science and AI in crop improvement? So essentially, just to frame her question a little bit, are you aware about agri-tech? Agriculture, especially, we are saying that it has not been disrupted yet. Any trends that you see in agri-tech?
I think I'm not very clear on the trends itself, but I know a bunch of startups who have entered this space and raised tons and tons of funding to basically optimize your crop production. Right? There was this guy who was in the same startup accelerator program. He went on to build a company that raised around 20-30 million, and what they were doing is I think they built greenhouses or something like that. They captured lots of space, and they were just optimizing. I think they claim to grow the crops at the fastest rate, and you can see how data can play a role there, right? If a certain crop needs more sunlight or more water, and then how you can arrange them, and where you want to grow them, and all of that. I'm sure data science can do lots and lots of more things with regards to that. But yeah, things are
Right.
there out there. And
Yeah, we are running out of time. Somebody has a question. Few top 10 companies to work for in AI ML space right now. What are some of the hottest startups? For a lot of people don't know, in fact, everyone, that DeepMind is one of the UK-based startups that was acquired by Google, and TensorFlow, you would see, was actually a DeepMind tool that worked out really well for Google. So tell us the names of some of the top 10 top startups or companies to work for in AI ML space in UK.
well, I think I'll not include the big ones because everyone is aware of them, like Google, Facebook. But I think in terms of the ones that are not very famous, I think in finance especially, uh, there's Monzo, there is Revolut, uh, there's Starlink. These are different set of companies who are hiring a lot as well. And then in healthcare, there is Babylon, there is Keron. Keron is, I think, one of the startups I know closely. They are doing some breast cancer research and using computer vision to solve that problem. And I think Trainline is great. I think they are hiring data scientists now. It's a great company. It's a great company to work for. What else? Yeah, I think Multiply is great as well. So if anyone fancies that, but I read a couple of questions. I think a few of them asked around how to find a job in UK, right? And I think that's very interesting because UK is hiring a lot. Like I think Facebook is hiring, I don't know, thousands, if not more in UK. And I meet every other Indian I meet has just come from India and working from Facebook London. So Facebook is hiring a lot. I think Google is going to open their huge campus in London, in the heart of London. In a couple of years, they are going to hire a lot. And the way you would want to approach these is basically have projects in your belt, right? I was lucky to have those internships when I was doing undergrad to literally have, I don't know, 10, 15 projects in my belt to showcase. And doing projects, and you can put them on your CV, and obviously not just for CV, but you get an idea and you get your curiosity to know more and more with these projects, and then apply. And I'm sure, I mean, I can't see why someone would not go forward in
yeah. Everyone, as Divyansh mentioned, UK is hiring in big numbers, and that's something that we usually don't know. A lot of hiring got disrupted and had slowed down during the Brexit period, Divyansh, if I'm not wrong. That was a tough time for especially Indians who wanted to work in UK, right?
Yeah, absolutely. But I think there was a short period that didn't last. That dip didn't last for more than 6 months, right? And I think tech industry was never disrupted. Like, I think there are different industries that are disrupted, like banks were disrupted. Like even now the travel industry is disrupted because of COVID, but I haven't seen tech being disrupted a lot, right? Tech is something that's been growing.
Everyone, would it be okay if we can start the next session? We are already 10 minutes behind schedule. We'll talk more about getting jobs in the US and etc. in a session, the last session that we are going to have with Tanveer, who got a job offer from a UK company, Rolls-Royce, while being in India. So can we all, is it okay if we start the next session? I know a lot of your questions, we have tried to pick, and Divyansh has patiently answered all of the questions, but the next session is going to be as interesting, as helpful. And if we can all thank Divyansh for doing this amazing session with us, that would be great. Thank you, Divyansh, for doing this session, and thank you for all the insights. I think this was a great session for one reason, that here, what we have learned more is about the overall trends, what is happening in a part of the world that we are usually not aware about. And everyone agrees that this was the whole objective of today's session, not to deep dive into one thing, but to talk about things on a high level. So I hope this session was helpful. Just you can let Divyansh know the feedback through #Insaid tag. You can share your feedback, share your thank you, and you can also connect with Divyansh on LinkedIn. Thank you so much, Divyansh.
Thanks, Manav. It's been a pleasure, and all the best to you, Filipa.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Over to you, Afreen, and thank you, Divyansh. If you want to stick around, you can switch off your video, and now we'll start the next session. Everyone, are you ready to start the next session? This was 1 hour long session. We'll have another session. You'll get totally different perspective in this session. I can tell you is going to be as exciting. It's going to change your mind quite a lot in terms of how data science can be used. Let me know in the chat window if you are all ready to start with the second session of Data Science Week. I'll hand it over to Afreen, who is my colleague and who will be hosting this session for Filipa. Afreen, over to you.
Thank you, Mana. Hello, everyone. I'm Afreen Rahman, and I'm the Academics Manager at Insaid. And I would like to welcome you and thank you all this evening for joining us. Now, before I proceed with the session, I would, like everyone who's attending the session with us today, to go to their LinkedIn profiles and use the hashtag Insaid. You can convey. We just finished with a lovely session with Divyansh, which was extremely informative, extremely insightful. You can convey your thanks to him. You can share your learnings from the session and also post your feedback there, and you can get connected with them as well. And that being said, I would really like to welcome Filipa with us today. Hi, Filipa. How are you doing? I hope everything is fine at your end.
Hi. Yes, I'm fine. Thank you.
Yeah. So Filipa Castro is a data scientist at Continental, and which is a $27 billion German multinational automotive parts manufacturing company. And talking about Filipa's areas of interest lies in computer vision, big data, machine learning, and software development. She's also part of Data Science for Social Good Portugal, which is an open community for data scientists and data enthusiasts who want to tackle, the issues and problems that affect our social good, and it helps in transforming our society in a much more viable way. So I warmly welcome you, Filipa, in this session. And I'd first of all like you to tell us where you are exactly joining us from.
Hi, thank you for the nice introduction, and thank you for the invitation to be here today. So I come from Portugal. I've studied here, even though that I had some international experiences. And currently I'm working here in Portugal, more specifically in Porto, which is in the north of Portugal.
All right, lovely. So Filipa, tell us, what has actually inspired you to get into the field of data science? It will serve as a motivation for all of us who are joining us this, evening. What was your inspiration to join the field of data science?
Sure. So maybe can I share a slide where I have like my journey?
Definitely. We can.
Yeah. Okay. So can you see my screen now?
Yeah, I can see your screen. Yes.
Okay. So to briefly explain how did I get into data science? So it was not programmed or planned at all, to be honest. So in 2013, I started my studies actually in bioengineering. Mm-hmm. So I did like a lot of biology, but also maths. So I decided to go into an engineering path that could also combine this biology with tech. But to be honest, I didn't think that I would like computer science or something like that. I simply didn't know that. But what's interesting is that in this bioengineering masters, we call it integrated masters because it's like you do the bachelor 3 years and the master's 2 years in a row. So it's like 5 years package and you already have the master's at the end. And around the third year of our curriculum, we can choose from 3 different branches, which are really different. So one will lead you to jobs like by bioscience research in a lab, for instance, and other branches like the one that I chose, which is biomedical engineering, is much more about tech and applying computer science and electrical engineering, for instance, to biomedical purposes. So basically, during the first 3 years, I discovered that I really liked computer science, software engineering, so I chose this branch. And when I was finishing, so around 2017, 2018, was more or less when data science started to be popular. So deep learning was in a rise, but at the same time, it was so fast to rise that the programs at university and even the teachers, the professors are not prepared. So for instance, I've not learned Python during my academic years. I've not learned deep learning. I just had some experience with, for instance, prediction, machine learning, but not deep learning. And that's where I got interested into that. Then I decided to do my thesis on deep learning applied to sports. So the thesis was about predicting if a tennis player with videos, predicting if the tennis player is hitting a serve or a right hand or a left hand. So for me, it's like the thesis give you the opportunity to choose if you want to do it in a startup, in a company, in a research lab. So I did it in the Netherlands, in Delft. And basically this was how I started in data science. So it was not planned. I just discovered during my academic years. And then I joined a startup as an AI researcher in 2018.
All right. So you said that you know, in your initial years that you did not study machine learning or deep learning, concepts like that. So how did you move ahead? Like, are you now up to date with machine learning? Have you, taken some courses? How have you coped up with that, missing segment in your data science journey?
Yeah. So basically, I think what is really important if you want to work with data science and machine learning is the foundations, so the math foundations. And that I had from so very strong background in algebra, maths from my engineering background. And then I had some courses on image processing, for instance, where I saw where the maths and algebra could apply to computer vision, for instance. Regarding machine learning in particular and deep learning, it was during the thesis. And actually what I did was, before starting the thesis, I followed some courses. For instance, the Stanford online courses for convolutional neural networks. I think they are really great. So what I advise people is, I think that the maths foundation is important to have it in faculty or as a very strong foundation. And then, for instance, Python, I've always learned it online, so I didn't have it at university. And I also applied it on like small projects for beginners. I think the important thing is that you just don't follow the course, you also try to apply it in your personal projects. And today I will give some examples where you can actually do so. So it was basically the foundations at university and then online or by applying the skills directly.
So good. So basically, your mathematical skills, your statistical skills have to be on point, for doing good as a data scientist. That's great. So, Filipa, you told me that before you worked for Continental, you were working with a startup, right? I believe Abyssal is the startup that you were working with.
Yep.
So, as per your experience, how is working in an MNC different, in working from a startup? What were your experience like?
Yeah, so I also prepared a slide regarding that. So I've joined Continental 3 months ago. So it's very recent, but of course there's something I've been reflecting a lot. So what are the main difference or the main obstacles that I'm facing and which are like the strong points and the weak points of each one of them. So what I feel is, but it also depends a lot on your experience. For instance, in a startup, I was working as a researcher. So I dived deeper in the technology. And here I'm working as more applied data scientist. So in the startup, of course, as you mentioned in the talk before, you get you have the full experience. So I think it's a very good way to start because you play several roles. So imagine you need to use a GPU like I did on my previous job. If there's a problem with the GPU, you need to search how to solve it. So you are also into the hardware part. Then you need to dive deep in the technology while doing research. You need to write papers. You need to apply for projects for financial support. For instance, maybe you will write patents. Then you build your model, and you are also the responsible for deploying your model. So from one side, you do a lot of things, but also these things take more time to follow. While in a bigger company, that's what I feel here, you have more specific roles. So for instance, in our team, we have data scientists, which are focused on building the models. And then we have ML ops, which are only focused on deploying these models. So, and also the hardware, of course. So if I have a problem with my machine or the tools that I'm using, I can simply create a ticket or call someone that will very fast solve my problem. So these are big differences. And one main difference as well is that on a startup, normally you are working for one product. So you are building a specific product and you take like 3 to 5 years to improve this. While in the multinational, you might, for instance, apply an algorithm, let's say an LSTM for forecasting for sales, for instance, and then you can apply this same model or this same technology and this know-how to forecasting of stocks or for time series classification. So what I feel here is that I have this know-how from one specific project where I'm working on, and then I can use the same knowledge to apply for different projects. So this is something that really appeals to me, because like to work always in the same product for 3-5 years might be a bit exhausting, but I think it really depends on the person. So if you like to dive deeper in one product, improve it, go into the details, I think a startup is really nice. Then what I also feel is sometimes startups, maybe they have better technology and better products and better know-how, but it's mainly in data science. So things won't work all the time. So imagine that you have 98% of accuracy. You still need to explain why it is not working for those 2%. But if you work in a company like Continental, it's easier, I think, to convince people and for people to trust in your solution and in your technology, rather than in a small startup where no one knows you. And then it's very difficult that they trust your work. But there are a lot of things that they have in common. So in Portugal, I feel that it's really difficult, mainly now that a lot of companies are hiring remotely. So you can work for anyone or any company in the world. It's really difficult to hire people. Also the communication. So when, as you said also in the previous talk, a lot of data scientists communicate to sometimes to an audience that is not technical at all. So to the business leaders, to the stakeholders. And I feel that's really difficult in the startups, but it's also difficult in bigger companies to have this communication flowing through different hierarchies. And because every day you have new papers, new technologies, new tools, new frameworks in this area of data science, it's difficult to adapt. So every day you need to rethink which tools are you using. And I felt this in a startup. For instance, imagine that I want to monitor my experiments. There are a ton of softwares for that. So we thought a lot, changing the mid of the way. But also at Continental, I feel that sometimes we don't know if we should proceed with Amazon or some custom-made solution. So there are so many things out there, so many tools, that it's basically the tech stack that I refer here. For me, it's a problem, I think, everywhere.
Okay. All right. All right. So basically, Filipa, now coming to what this session is exactly about, when we are talking about data science and how it is impacting the social causes or the social good of our society, right? So please tell us, what exactly motivated you to look beyond the industrial, application of data science and use it as a tool for bringing changes in the society. So give us that, insight into things which really transforms, this entire knowledge of data science that we usually see as only applied being into companies or for, data analysis and, machine learning and things like that. But to completely correlate it with for a social cause or for social goods, that is extremely exciting for me to learn, and especially everyone attending here. So just, walk us through that, motivation or let's say application of data science.
Yeah, so when I started working, so I think for every data scientist, when you spend your entire day working with data to optimize like the savings of people, or to optimize the manufacturing process at Continental, or to improve health of people, you then arrive home and you think about what, like the data that you have available, for instance, on open data websites. I'm sure that India does this also, but for instance, in Portugal and in Europe, we have a lot of data available online about politics, economics, traffic, waste. And it's really obvious for someone that works on a daily basis with data to think about all the projects, all the things that we could do, all the analysis and all the impact we could have. So since I was very young, that I liked to join initiatives for social good. So they were not related to data science at all at the moment, at that time. So I belonged to Rotaract, which I don't know, maybe there are Rotaract clubs also in India. And for me, when I started to work and like to earn money to apply data science, I started to think it would make sense for me to also apply these skills, data science skills, to social good. So instead of just spending my weekend distributing, for instance, food packages or food baskets, I would like to do some more related to my work, to also learn. And in 2019, I found a group of people, a group of actually friends, which were organizing and founding this new association in Portugal, which is Data Science for Social Good. And at that time, I was in Rotaract. So what they proposed to me was to do this first pilot project with data from Rotaract. So they wanted to start this initiative, but they needed a partner or some social organization that needed help and that had some data available. So I started as a beneficiary of Data Science for Social Good Portugal. I gave them the data. I had meetings with them to explain our problems and which insights we would like to have. And so I followed the process with them as a beneficiary. And after the project was over, I decided to join them, also to help them on the following steps of the organization.
All right. All right. So, okay, Filipa, now please, you have to tell us what data science for social good is all about and, what all initiatives you have undertaken. Please walk us through your journey.
Yeah, thank you. So, like you said, I will, so I think this is also a trend in Europe, actually, at this time. So at the end, I will show other initiatives like this one that are taking place. And I also feel that companies are more and more worried about sustainability, about using data for social good. They want normally to help us. So that's why I decided to bring this topic. So what we do here in Portugal, so I'm not sure if in India there's also some kind of data science for social good organization, but if not, I think I expect to inspire you to start such a thing. So what we do is we gather beneficiaries, which might be charities, NGOs, or public administration, and we get them together with a community of volunteers. And these volunteers might be data scientists, data enthusiasts, developers, or maybe they are not related to data science at all. Maybe they are designers or some kind of domain experts. For instance, we need a lot of people from the communication field, sometimes to get this message across, so to get insights to everyone. And we normally like that to choose people, so volunteers for the projects that are beginners, so they are starting in their data science journey. And actually what is happening is that we have some volunteers that did a project with us, and then they could get a job. For instance, I can give an example of someone that came from marketing. She did some online courses on data science, then she did a project with us. And because she had this project in her portfolio, then she could get a job as a data science, so her first job as a data scientist. So we want to bring these people together because like there are a lot of data scientists which want to apply their skills or start at data science. And on the other side, at least in Portugal, these charities or NGOs, they don't have the resources to collect data. They don't have a full-time person dedicated to data. So they are the ones that really need these skills and resources. So our projects, normally we like them to be very short, so between 3 to 6 months. And you don't need to apply the most complex or fancy algorithm. You just need the project to be impactful and very simple, if that's the solution, and to contain an actual deliverable. So it might be a dashboard, a report, but it needs to be used in the daily routine of the beneficiary, and it needs to have impact. So what we do normally is that we meet this beneficiary. So we talk with them, we try to understand what kind of data they have. We try to understand what problems we can solve with the data, because this is a very difficult thing to do. Sometimes there are a lot of problems. Some problems can't be solved with data, some can, but sometimes the data that we need is not there. So we just need firstly to start by helping them collect data, teach them how to collect good data, good quality data. And once we find there is a use case there, we start to build what is the project scope. So the scope just tells us what is the goal of the project, the duration, how many people we will need in the team, the milestones, and the expected deliverable. Then we have an ethic committee, let's say, that we have recently added to the team. So because of the privacy of the data, to define the boundaries of the algorithm that you are designing, it's really important, I think, for every data science project. But mainly when it relates to people and to social good, it's really important that you define these boundaries and that you have someone external with an ethics background to help you find those tiny issues that might arise when you apply this project. Then we open a call to volunteers. So basically, if you go to our website, you can have our newsletter, so subscribe to the newsletter, and then every month you will receive our news. And within this news, normally there are some open calls where we describe the new project, and we receive the CVs from volunteers that want to work on that project. We have some kind of small interviews, and then we choose the team and we start developing the project. After more or less 6 months, we need to measure the impact So we go back to the beneficiary, we see if they are using the tool or the insights that we gave them. And basically it's an iterative process where we are also learning a lot. So I think the best way to explain our action is to give examples of our projects. So as I explained before, the pilot project was done with the Rotaract. So basically every year in Portugal, there's a big fundraising, which happens in the 1st of November. And basically in every supermarket, in every city, you have volunteers raising money, so asking people for money specifically for cancer. So to help people with cancer, for treatments, for research, for resources. And what we wanted to do is, so in Santo Tirso is a small city near Porto in Portugal, and we had a lot of data regarding how much money did they collect, how much money each volunteer collected, what is the age of this volunteer, where is the location of this volunteer, for how many hours he was there collecting money. So the idea was, imagine that in a certain year you have like 10 volunteers, but you have 15 locations where you can assign these volunteers. So you don't have enough volunteers, and you need to decide which are the best locations where to place them, so that you can fundraise more money. So the idea was to provide some insights on which are the locations that are able to fundraise more, to then improve the logistics and improve their organization in the next fundraising campaigns. So here are some of the deliverables that the team of volunteers produced. So for instance, here on the right corner in the bottom, we have a map, a heat map, which tells how much money was fundraised in each of the parishes of this small city, so in each of the locations, normalized by the population. So here you can see not only the total amount of money, but also the total amount per people, per person of this city. Here on the top, we have kind of a violin plot where we can see that in orange, you have older people, and in blue, you have younger people. And we can see that in average, older people can collect more money. So this was also a very good way for Rotaract to motivate older people to participate in the fundraising campaign, because here they could, with the real facts, tell them that they are important. And this is exactly what Rotaract told us after 6 months. So firstly, that it was the information and the insights and the facts that came with this analysis showed that the older people can actually help a lot on this type of fundraisings, but sometimes because they are older and they can't stand for a lot of time being there in the location asking for money, they feel a bit less motivated, and this helps on the motivation. And also the visualization, so after each year they need to report to the mayors of each county or each parish how much money did they get, how they can improve, and these visualizations help them communicate these results. After this pilot project, we also had one with an association, which is basically a public vet hospital in Portugal. And they had a problem where, because they don't schedule the appointments, sometimes they have big waiting lines. And what they wanted to do, they had a lot of data regarding all the appointments, all the treatments, and the information regarding which type of pet was there. So they wanted to describe in terms of like the week or the different months, how many people or how many clients they normally have, and they wanted to optimize these waiting lines. So the deliverable in this case was a dashboard that they have available now every day, and this dashboard shows them, for instance, the average waiting time per day. They also show the like the species, so if it's a cat or if it's a dog, depending on the day of the week. And the most important thing I would say is that they can actually predict how many appointments or how many treatments there will be in the next 15 days. So then they can plan. So if the prediction is that on Saturday they will have a lot of people, then they will maybe mobilize more resources or more people to work on that specific day, so that they don't have so many waiting lines. And the follow-up after 6 months is that they have been using this almost every day. And what they also told is it's really important when they have meetings with administration, that because before they had this dashboard, they would kind of give some guesses, or like, we think we have more people at the weekend, so we should hire an additional person for the weekend. But the administration would not trust them because it's like a guess. But they told us that now that they have this dashboard, it's much more easy to convey the message and to convince the administration of the real facts. And for them, it's also, they don't have to guess anymore. And at the moment, we are working a very, very interesting project with Frutafeia. So Frutafeia is the word in Portuguese for ugly fruit. So basically, they are an organization which has created an alternative market for ugly fruits. So basically, there are a lot of farmers and producers which fruits or vegetables are not very beautiful. So the supermarkets and the main channels won't accept them. What Frutafeia or ugly fruit does is they collect these ugly vegetables and ugly fruits, and then they produce baskets with different kinds of varieties, and they distribute it to their clients. So they have, imagine, 200 clients in Porto, and every Monday they are in a certain location, they prepare these baskets, and then the clients come and pay a lower price for high quality food, even if it's not very beautiful. The thing is, they were doing this very manually. So they decide on the diversity or the number of each fruit that goes into each basket. And also they decide which producers or which farmers they will collect fruit from each week. Also, like, they don't have a methodic approach and it's very manual. So what we want to do is to build a tool to automatically build these baskets, and also build a tool that can automatically suggest them which farmers they should choose. For instance, they have a list of 30 farmers, and sometimes what happens is that they will always choose the top 5 farmers just because they are easier to have a talk to, they already know them better. And what we want to do is that this tool will suggest a turnover on these producers, so that we don't help always the same 5, but we help a lot of farmers. So the tool is to build these automatic suggestions of baskets and also suggest the producers. Besides these bigger projects where we have a specific beneficiary, what we do is, or what we decided to do while this pandemic is happening. Basically, when the COVID-19 started, our projects were put on hold, basically because our beneficiaries had other priorities rather than developing these projects. And at the same time, we had a lot of data scientists and people that were at home. They couldn't leave home. They were working at home. So they were very eager to help. So also in Portugal, I don't know how is it like in India, but in Portugal, we don't have, or the government shares the data about the cases of COVID-19 in a PDF file. And you might imagine that a PDF file is not useful at all for a data scientist. So what we did was to create this public repository in GitHub, where we started to share this data. So at first we were manually extracting the data from the PDF to a CSV, but we opened this repository to contributions, and a lot of people started to help. So there was a volunteer that actually did an algorithm that could directly extract from the PDF file the numbers. So now we don't need to do it manually each day. It's just a script that every day runs, and the CSV is updated. And the community started to create endless visualizations projects, also predictions. So they, for instance, this map of Portugal here basically tells us where is it predicted that the cases will be higher or lower, which is really useful. We have actually a volunteer which also basically did a script where that automatically brings the new numbers to our Twitter account. So there are like thousands of people now following these numbers on Twitter on our account because this volunteer did this automatic script. And then we also started to build what we call mini projects. So we are gathering so much data on this public repository that we can do multiple analysis. So one thing we did last year was to collect data from the news, from the newspapers, from online websites. We also collected data from Twitter and social networks. And what we did was to try to correlate the numbers with the sentiment of people. So the group of volunteers here, they used NLP to analyze the news and the Twitters and to see if there was a kind of a correlation between the sentiment of Portuguese people and the numbers, and also correlate it with the restriction measures. So for instance, when schools were closed, how did the people feel it? And I think this is the kind of work that is really important, because the impact and the effectiveness of your measures or your restrictions will depend a lot on how people are feeling. So for instance, in Portugal, if people are feeling tired or sad, it can bring you a lot of problems also in terms of mental issues, for instance. And this was a really, really interesting project on that. So basically, COVID-19 showed us that open data and the proactive community of data experts are the key ingredients that can solve a lot of social problems with data. And to finalize, I would like also to show you some of the initiatives that there are out there. So I already saw one question, at least in YouTube, asking if people from India can work on these projects. So for instance, in Portugal, if it's a project with a Portuguese beneficiary, normally we ask people to know how to talk Portuguese. So that's one of the requirements, just because in these organizations, people don't, it's already difficult to communicate data, technical things. So if it's in English, for them, it's even difficult. So our experience told us that we should only bring volunteers that can speak Portuguese. But for instance, with our repository about COVID, anyone can go there, explore the data, build a dashboard, and then share it with us, or even try to replicate the same with the data from India. But what I wanted to show here is that there are a lot of other initiatives in Europe, but also outside of Europe. Maybe I should also search for some initiatives in India. But social finance in UK, for instance, does a lot of social good projects with data. Correlate AI, it's also in Germany, Netherlands, Switzerland, France. So I suggest that you look for those. I assume that, for instance, DataKind allow people from all over the world to participate in these projects. So if you need also to get in touch with any of these, you can ask me. And yeah, from my side, I think that's all that I wanted to share. I hope this inspires you to get some kind of interest, for instance, in exploring open data in Europe or in India or in the world. And this is a great way for someone to start in data science, to just look for a data set that is open, to grab an objective or a goal for social good, and then start working on that. So thank you, and I'm open to questions.
Yeah, thank you so much, Filipa. Means the initiatives and the projects that you have done has been so interesting and exciting, especially the one that you showcased on this pandemic, the COVID pandemic that is going on right now. In fact, in our chat box itself, we had one of the questions that spoke about, how we can analyze, all the data that is going about COVID and analyze it from the point of view from India. And the way you showed it, it was so amazing the way you are translating all that data and taking it from Twitter and everything. Yes, this application, this creating this data repository on GitHub that you just informed means I'm sure the data scientists that we have present with us today, it's truly inspiring, and it just gives that idea and that spark there. And for me personally, this fruta fair that you mentioned about, that was the most interesting, because I think it gave me a startup idea.
I think you should go for it.
Yeah, because India is a land of agriculture. Like, we are so heavily dependent upon our agriculture industry. And yes, all of us, it's a very common thing, right? We go to these market stalls, and we pick up the most beautiful looking vegetables and fruits, and we really don't care about. But excellent initiative even there, to get into and get all that data information from people. So Filipa, just one question here that I would like to frame is, do you approach companies for these kind of data sets, or do they come to you? How do you source all this data set when you're working in a social kind of setup, and how do you do that?
Yeah. So it depends on the project. So for instance, this one is open data that is provided by the government. Then, for instance, the project with Fruitafy or Hoteract, this is private data that the beneficiary gives us to work with. But we also have partners and sponsors, and we have different ways companies can help us. So, for instance, one way can be that they directly give us money for resources. They can help us with tech. Imagine, for instance, GitHub gave us a free enterprise account. So also Slack or Google, we have these premium features for free. But also they can help, for instance, on the knowledge side. They can give workshops to our volunteers, but they can also give us data. So that's one way of being our sponsor, is to give our private data sets that can help in social good. And very recently we set a new partnership with the biggest telecommunications company here in Portugal. So they will provide us data, anonymized data, of course, from calls and messages and the profiles of the users. And the goal is that we also have a project and that is coming on the way with Banco Alimentar. So Banco Alimentar basically is a food bank in Portugal. So for like 3 to 4 times a year, they collect a lot of food from the supermarkets that people give. Then they have these big storages where they store the food, and then they deliver to people in need. And for these campaigns in the supermarkets, what we want to do is to use the profiles of the telecommunications company to understand the people that are more willing to give. So people that normally give money, or basically we want to have a rank of generosity for each user. So we want to build a predictive model that gives us these insights, and then we will send specific messages to these users for them to go. So, okay, we know that this user lives in Porto, so we will tell them in which supermarkets around him we are located. So basically, all the companies do this for marketing purposes, or Facebook uses it so that you buy more and you have your ads, your favorite ads there. So I think we can also use the same data, but for good purposes instead of selling random products to you.
Yeah, got it. So, Filipa, tell me one more thing. Like, you are showing this COVID-19 data repository, and the situation in India right now is not very good. You must have heard it in the news. So, for people who would want to start into such initiatives or get into data, science, good platforms, want to create a platform, what do they need to do to actually create such kind of platforms or such kind of initiatives? What do we need to do to get into something like this?
Yeah. So, for instance, in terms of the COVID-19, I think the way to go is, for instance, I don't know if you have any website like India Open Data, or sometimes there's like a city that has open data. For instance, this week, as part of my job also, we organized a lecture in Slovakia. And we wanted to show the students how they could organize like a little data science project. So we want to look for open data in Slovakia, and there was the city of Bratislava has a lot of data like Wi-Fi users of the streets, or like bike passes, traffic of bikes in certain locations. So what I would do is like to just look for this data, to find a data set that I think is interesting. So if I like sports, maybe I want to study what is the correlation between traffic and football matches in India, or imagine that I want to make maintenance in the streets, what would be the best hour in terms of traffic. So what I would do is to look for open data. Then you can create a repository in GitHub, which is totally free. And it might seem a bit complex if you don't know GitHub, but basically it's just you click on a button to create, and then you can just upload an Excel or a CSV file with the data, like we did with COVID, and then share it with people, and basically everyone has access to this data. And then we can have a notebook or a Python script there that do some analysis, and all the codes is available for everyone. So I think that when you open it to the community is when you gain more, because then you get feedback, you have people that want to also work on your code, to branch your code. So I would really suggest people that go for open data and open source like GitHub.
Yeah. So we have a question, in our chat box from one of our, students who's joined. Jigna is asking, what would be the best way to set up or connect with right people and contribute our learning for the society? Because like you said, in India, we don't really have, the only two foundations that I could actually find out, which is doing, work on the similar lines, is Sabud Foundation and Data for Good, which is run by SAS India. So they are basically doing, this same work that you are doing with data scientists, and helping the social causes of India. But since it's not on a, the awareness about this is not a lot, how do you suggest that, would be the best way to set up and connect, data scientists and people who can contribute for the learning in the society?
Yeah, I think it's all about community. So I would, for instance, organize. So if you think that you like to work with this association, so if you think their goals motivate you, I think you should try to connect in LinkedIn, send them a message, explain that you want to dive, or maybe if they also have calls to volunteers, you can answer these calls. If you think that you would like to do something different, for instance, like you said, it can be a startup, so you can even hire people and earn money, and at the same time to do social good. So for instance, this Fruit of Fair initiative is something that is not related to data, at least now, but you can also found a startup that aims for social good. So I think it depends a lot. For instance, I do it as a hobby, so apart from my job. If you want a full-time thing, maybe a startup is the way to go. If you want to do it as like a side thing, I would get in touch with these associations in India, but you can also get in touch with things like DataKind or Data Science for Social Good, and you can also start your own initiative if you have your own ideas. You can also go to companies and just collaborate with them. So I think it truly depends on what you would like to do.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so besides, I would say, the just empathy being one of the factors to be, associated with initiatives like this. What do you think are the different skill sets that a data scientist would need if they would want to contribute to initiatives like, data science for social good? What are the skill sets you think, data scientists must have?
Yeah, so I think a lot of patience. For instance, in this COVID-19, there were some frustrating moments because, like I said, we felt like the government could simply give us a CSV file, or sometimes they could give us more data because they have it. But then they gave a PDF, and we had like an algorithm that was specifically tailored for this PDF to extract the data to a CSV. And then they were changing the PDF format and the PDF structure every week. So also in a lot of our projects, because we work with organizations that their data maturity is very low, sometimes the data sets are like written, things that are written in handwritten. So they give us the notebooks, and then we need to decide what to do with this data. Or sometimes they are in CSV files, but they are not organized at all. So if you follow this data science for social good path, you are sure that you will work with real problems, you will have real impact, but you will also work with real data, and real data normally is very dirty. So you need to be very patient to clean this data and understand it. So I would say that patience and attention to detail will be very important ones. And then I think the most challenging thing, so we have a lot of people which are very good technically, but then you need to communicate this to an audience that doesn't know what is data science at all. They don't understand the data. They don't know what is a model or a logistic regression. For them, it's just magic. So you need people that are very good at communicating. And I think in the industries, it's the same, because then you have your insights and it's all about communicating your message to the stakeholders that will make the decisions. So yeah, I think those two are the most important skills.
Thank you so much, Filipa, for your time and for all these lovely, lovely insights that you've just given us. It was a beautiful session. You've not only inspired us, in terms of thinking on the lines of data science, but at least personally, you've inspired me to even do data, how to correlate this all, for doing good for the society. And, trust me, I think we all need, these initiatives, especially in these tough and hard times that are going on right now. So thank you so much for joining and sharing your work with us. We really, really appreciate it. And, before I end this, session with us, I would request everyone who's attending here, please go to your LinkedIn profiles, use the hashtag Insaid, and please convey your thanks to Filipa, who's given us such great insights and ideas to do, good for our society. And you can also share your learnings, from this session, or you can post your feedback. You can connect with Filipa. I hope that's fine, Filipa, if there are lots of requests coming in from India.
Yeah, of course.
I'm sure, everyone would, love to have you here. Probably a chapter. They'll inspire you to come here and open a chapter for us as well. And again, thank you so much for your time given this evening.
Thanks a lot for the invitation.
We look forward that, we'll be discussing more such initiatives with you in future.
Yeah, I hope so.
All right. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Have a lovely evening. Bye-bye.
See you.